So I thought while I had the camera out, I'd just do this. I've been messing around with these on a Friday night. Handbrake cable, this is the front one. So I had 3 handbrakes somehow. The best one is this out of the van. So the fact that it only done 50,000, I think it's probably part to do with it. But I was surprised that one cable, the one out of the van's got a liner on the cable itself, a rubber liner, and it moves really well. So I'm comfortable that I'm going to use that. And to be able to use it, first of all, I've cleaned the plastics up using, you know, Prepsol and thinners and whatever I needed to get it to come clean. And then the actual rusty bit, this bit here, which is spring steel, and they're raw from the factory, just in the spring steel. I've just run that over the wire wheel. So I've just run that over the wire wheel and cleaned that up. And my plan now is to back mask the plastic, and I'm going to paint that section with the one I used on the rear brake. So it's a VHT. I normally, on this I'll probably use the engine enamel, so I normally use either engine enamel or I use the high temp one, and it looks like cast iron, so it just looks like steel. So I'll paint them up and I'll do the whole center cable as well, and I'll show you some video of that. Now the end pieces, I've actually just cleaned those, and then I dipped them in some rust solution, which is this one here. So I've just had that sitting in that, just the end of it suspended in there, and it's a really cool product. I'll just grab it and stay there with the camera. That's that one there. It's a rust remover. So it's 5-to-1 with water. You can see on the packet there where they're doing like a door lock. Now what I like about it is it doesn't seem to take any of the CAD off, or very little of the CAD plating off of the part. So I put it in there. I'm going to clean those up, and then I'm going to paint those with either some silver, probably just some silver paint, so they don't keep rusting. And that'll enable me to use that original cable, and it'll look pretty much original. So the other part of that handbrake is this part. So I actually paint stripped that, and then I dipped this end that was all sort of had a bit of rust, that goes against the firewall. I've had that in that solution as well, and that's cleaned up. You can see how much it's cleaned all them threads and all. So I haven't had that on a wire wheel or anything. Actually, I think I might have stuck it on just to do a little bit in here, but I haven't had to mess with the threads because I don't want to play with the threads. So that might get a little sandblast now before I put some epoxy on it, some black epoxy. That's those 2 parts, and then the other part is all the little bits and pieces, and we'll go out the other bench and I'll show you those, because I've been just messing with these small items, you know, in between other things I'm doing. Righto, so out of those 3 handbrakes, I had one of these that was bent, actually physically bent on the end here, so I've discarded that. And then I had these 2. Now this one had a little mark up here, and I've put a bit of glue in that. I just used a bit of super glue, and this one's got a mark here. So whichever one I use, I'm probably going to paint it just with a bit of vinyl paint on the handle. Now that there, I've just ran on that wire wheel, the same as the cable. Now if I leave that like that, being zinc, it's probably going to rust, because the zinc's fairly thin, and it's quite old. It's 40, nearly 50 years old. What I've done with this one, a little trick that I've picked up over the years, is I just get some silver paint, spray it onto a rag and just wipe it over the surface so that it fills up any of those sort of porous areas, and that now almost looks like zinc. If I masked it back and sprayed the whole thing with the silver paint, a couple of things that happen. Firstly, it'll look like it's painted silver, and the other thing will be when you use it and it slides, it's just going to tear that off. So this is really thin, just a light quick coat over it, and wiped off with a rag, so I can see through it, and I know that when it's actually on there, I only did that about an hour ago, it'll look nice, and it should last for what I'm going to do. What I may do, when I get some zinc done, I might put that one in, because I know they can zinc that with the handle on it, and do that in silver zinc, but I'll just see how time goes. But at the moment, I've got one I can put together. Now all the other parts, I've got a bag here off of the 3 I pulled apart, plus a few other spares. The other part that's a problem with these is this part. So when that goes together, this little piece here is what sits into that groove and locks it. So when you turn the handbrake, it slides, and then when it's back, that's what when you pull your handbrake on is. And as you can see there, that one's worn, so it's not going to grip as well as that one. That's the best one I've got, so I'll clean that one up and use that one. And then all the other little bits and pieces will either go off to be zinced, or I'll paint them and clean them up. And then this is the other important part. The wheel that goes on the cable runs over, and that's a repo one that I must have had for one of the Cobras, but I'll look to try and salvage one of these and clean it up and use an original, because I find the original stuff's always better if you can find one, but if you can't, you can get a repo. So that's the handbrake, and this is the other bit that I haven't worked out yet either, as I've got 3 switches. One clearly is broken in the top, this one's quite rusty, and this looks to be the best one. So I just got to work out how that works with the wiring when I have a look at the wiring, to see what I'm going to do with that one, because that bolts onto the top and brings the dash light on when your handbrake's on. So this is the other big cable that runs, the one we just looked at comes to here. I've left that all together because I'm going to fit all this back on the car to make sure I've got everything, and then when we disassemble, that will get stripped and sent off and get replated in the gold zinc. But these ones here, we'll be able to now paint that with the silver. They've been cleaned up. The cable itself's in very good condition, and you can buy reproduction parts, but I've chosen to clean up the original and keep it stock, and I know that it's going to work because I just don't know where the other cables are coming from and what sort of condition they're in. The other one's a speedy cable. I've done the same with that. It turns really nice. We're just cleaning up the outside and the ends, get all the oils and stuff off it, and then that'll be able to go in as well. So tinkering away, and we'll eventually get there. Righto, so this just about rounds up the handbrake cable for now, and I'm doing it now because I want to put it back in the car so that when I get all the driveline in, I'm comfortable that I've got everything I need, and stuff that needs to go off to platers can be plated. So I'm talking about items like this. So this is still complete from when it come out of the car, and I'm going to leave that like that, because when I strip the car out to go to paint, all of this stuff can go off and be zinc plated. The rest of it, the cable is the original cable. I've managed to clean all that up. Steve and I have done that. So all of these items, just the normal, cleaning processes to get rid of dirt and grime and rubbish. We wire wheeled these, and then I painted those with some of this, which is actually an engine enamel, but it's called cast iron. It's a quality product. I've used it for years, and it looks like it's not painted, so it just looks like steel, which is what I'm after. These colours are factory colours. It's probably should be a little bit darker, but I can't seem to get it any darker than that. The front cable, this gives you a bit of an idea. I fortunately had 3 or 4 of these. This is all the best parts, and then this is what we started with. So we had items like this, and we've paint stripped and then a little bit of sandblasting to get ourselves to that, and that's painted in that CF black epoxy. Just 2 good solid coats of that, and I don't plan on doing any more because it's up under the dash, so there's no reason to worry about UV or anything. This one, that's the painted one that was earlier. I've put a little bit of vinyl spray on that as well, so that'll just get a bit of white grease now, so it slides nice. And then these other small parts, I've cleaned those up. Now, someone mentioned in one of the comments in the show that They use a ultrasonic cleaner, and I thought I'd grab one of those off eBay. The guy that does electrical, he was telling me that he does the plastic fittings and stuff, so that's been in that ultrasonic cleaner, and I'm going to make a video on how I'm using that. I've done a little bit of YouTube research myself, so I'll show you how that works, because it worked really, really well. So that pretty much tidies up all of the handbrake parts for the car, and also I've got the rear brakes all together, so I can tick that box, move on to the next thing.